Steven Interviews You. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Steven Interviews You. This is episode number 26. And this is a series where I basically sit down and have a good chat with a very special guest. And for this episode, his name would be, introduce yourself.
It's John Carubba.
Nice to have you on, John. So let's get started here with just a very simple intro. How did you become a sports fan in general? How did everything get started for you when it comes to sports, collegiate or professional?
So my love for sports really began when I was younger. I owe a lot to the Madden video games, doing PlayStation 2. I remember all those triple play baseball on EA Sports, which was one of the coolest video games ever. At the same time, I did play some Little League baseball growing up and some floor hockey that helped inspire my interest in sports. It grew. I would say I got injured in a car accident when I was younger, and for a while I was in a wheelchair. Long story short, I was told I was never going to walk again, and I was able to overcome that, and now I can get around. But during that time, watching sports, I remember the Yankees winning the 2009 World Series. It all really put a smile on my face, and sportscasting did that for me. And so now it drives what I want to do as a sportscaster, because I want to help people through their tough times. If I can put a smile on their faces and return the favor the same way through the power of entertainment, it's all worth it. So I really owe a lot in my life to sports, and these are the types of things that drove it. So,
yeah. So you mentioned sportscasting. Could you take me through that? What got you really into sportscasting in particular? What was the moment that made you go, yeah, I can do this, sportscasting? Did you take like any training going into that, or what led up to that?
So I was fortunate enough to be trained by several people that used to work for the Buffalo Sabres, like Kevin Sylvester, who used to be the in-studio host on MSG. Western New York is what it's called now. But at the time, it was just MSG. He became a close personal mentor of mine as far as play-by-play. And I remember the first time that he took me live to do a hockey game, I almost fainted because of just how fast-paced it was and trying to keep up with all the names. But then slowly and surely, as I continued to practice, I started getting in with WNY Athletics that does a lot of things in the Western New York region for high school and colleges. And I got to call the New York State Ice Hockey Championships from KeyBank Center where the Sabres play. And it was at that moment that I realized that, I was able to do this. This is so cool. To me, that would be one of the pivotal moments that I would say told me, hey, I might have a future doing this.
Yeah. So in addition to that, play-by-play announcing 4 games, how is that like? How is it like just to call a game no matter what sport it is, whether it's hockey or football or basketball, you name it? What is it like?
It's great. It's such an adrenaline rush. There's nothing better than the feeling of the countdown leading up, knowing you're about to go on air, knowing you're about to do another broadcast. It's exhilarating. I'm actually doing 2 softball games tomorrow for Rollins College, because now I'm down here in Winter Park, Florida, which is outside of Orlando, attending Full Sail University for sportscasting. Oh. And we do games for Rollins. And so I'm doing a doubleheader of softball tomorrow. And I'm just as geared up for that as when I do baseball or any other sport. It's also makes you realize what a pleasure and what an opportunity it is to get to do this. You become very grateful because, not too many people in the world can wake up in the morning and say, hey, I get to go call sports for a living or working my way towards that. And I'm one of the few people who has the privileged opportunity to do that. So that's why the exhilaration, the gratefulness. those are the biggest things that I feel every time I go into a sportscast, no matter what sport it is I'm doing.
Yeah. So sticking to collegiate sports, this next question, and this is about University of Buffalo. What got you really going for the University of Buffalo? Because you started Bullseye Nation, the podcast. What was the backstory behind that? What made you go, yeah, I can start having a show about the Buffalo Bulls?
So I am a Buffalo, New York native originally, even though I'm currently residing in Florida. And my family had a string of collision shops across the Western New York area that were number one in the state. And my dad was a big reason for that, so I'm proud of that. And we did strong sponsorships with the Buffalo Sabres, but we also did strong ties with the University of Buffalo Bulls. And through that, we got to know, and I got to know the program director, the assistant athletic director, their radio play-by-play announcer. Paul Peck is another one of my close friends and mentors. And so I've always had this strong connection to that school, even though it's not my alma mater. In a way, it feels like it's my adopted alma mater. And so when I was looking and seeing at the time, I noticed no one else really had done a dedicated sports podcast on UB Bulls athletics, especially football or basketball. And I said, hey, there's an opportunity here for me to change this. And so it was just a natural fit. I loved football. I was a season ticket holder, went to all the games for a while, and I said, why not me? I can do this. I can get my voice, my name out there, and at the same time support a school that means so much to me. And it was just a touchdown, if you will. No pun intended. Okay, maybe a little bit, but ultimately I just saw the opportunity there and I said, just go for it, just do it. And that's what really where it began. And then it was, let's come up with a name. And Paul Peck's catchphrase when they score a touchdown is bullseye. And so I thought, perfect, Bullseye Nation, really rallying the support of the UB community. So that's really how it all began. And it's been going strong ever since.
Yeah. So you said that you were a season ticket holder for Buffalo Bulls games. The stadium itself, UB Stadium, uh, what is the atmosphere like taking in a Buffalo Bulls game? Because not many college football fans, they automatically go, oh, let's go to Buffalo for a game. What is it that you can expect when you go to UB Stadium?
So, what I will say is that it's very much a small local community feel to it, but they are as strong as anyone as far as supporting their team. Does the stadium hold the extent of a Clemson or a University of Alabama? No, but the Bulls fans that do show up there, you're going to hear from them, and you're going to hear from them, especially if the team is winning. And I was fortunate enough to get more towards the front row, and I would stand along the side, which was a great view of the game. And you know, I was more on the home side, but it was fun a lot of the times going back and forth, especially a MAC game. If they're playing a MAC team, especially, I'll say Ohio. Um,
Right.
there's a lot of fun going back and forth in the crowd. You have the visiting crowd cheering, and then you got the UB fans going, "Let's go Buffalo!" And the atmosphere, it's really fun to see a smaller college football community really get behind their team, and that's what it's like going to a UB game. Very much the small town feel. No, again, it's not Alabama or Clemson where the stadium is shaking, but it's still a really cool experience and an intimate one watching the fans that are there coming out and cheering for their UB Bulls. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah. So knowing about Buffalo sports in general, and there have been many successful sports teams up there in Buffalo, whether it's college or a professional. Um, is there like a we know about the Buffalo Bills of the NFL, for example. They're so popular. When the team is good, when the Buffalo Bulls are good, um, is there like buzz in the Buffalo market when they're doing well?
Yes, there is. First of all, Stephen, I got to say,
Yeah.
thank you. You might be one of the few people in the world that I know outside of lacrosse that would call Buffalo professional sports teams successful.
Right.
Generally, the only thing we've been successful at is losing. So I appreciate the compliment. But all joking aside, yes, there is a buzz when this team is good. I remember 2008, which was the first and only year the Bulls have flat out straight won the MAC East and won the MAC. And I remember when they went and they upset, and then they got ready to play Connecticut in the International Bowl, especially with that being right across the border. They won a game against Temple on a last second Hail Mary, and it made Sports Center, and the town did not stop talking about it for at least a week straight. It was leading everything. At that point, you would be hard pressed to even know the Bills existed at that point. And the Sabres were still kind of good at that time, but UB was dominating the front pages. So when this team is good, and we've even seen that in basketball when they upset Arizona in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. Again, that made front page headlines. That was huge here in Western New York for a couple of days. It definitely dominated the sports cycle. So people are galvanized when UB is good. There is a strong passion, and especially because a lot of people in Western New York, especially Buffalo, are so sick and tired of hearing about all the success that Syracuse is having down the road to the east of us. It's nice when we can sort of clap back. Well, look at how good UB is doing. They are definitely a source of pride in the Buffalo community, and when they are good, you see that reflected in the fan support and the media coverage of the team.
Yeah. So speaking of good memories of Buffalo Bulls football, you mentioned that international bowl victory. Um, what are some what are some of your favorite Buffalo Bulls games in general? If you could like come up with like a short list of ever since you started watching them, what are some favorite Buffalo Bulls games and memories?
Well, I would have to say, and they lost the International Bowl,
Okay,
by the way.
I
I
forgot
meant
about
to
that.
say when they beat undefeated Northern Illinois to get to the International
Okay,
Bowl. That was the moment. So they lost the International Bowl to UConn. So I wanted to inform your listeners and viewers correctly.
right, I forgot.
Uh,
So,
but that's on me. Anyways, as far as favorite games besides that one, I'd have to say UB outlasting Bowling Green in 2008 to officially punch their ticket, winning the MAC East to go to the MAC championship. That was a back and forth. I believe it went 4 or 5 overtimes, if I remember correctly. And it was James Starks bursting up the middle, running free on the road, taking it home. And I remember Paul Peck's call, celebrate Bulls fans. Your time is now. And it gave me goosebumps. That was one of my all-time favorite games. The Temple Hail Mary really made me feel like, hey, this team has got something going on. It's very special. Then I would say a lot of the other ones are more recent memory. Um, I remember there was a back and forth shootout. It was 2 or 3 years ago against Toledo, where they were down 20 points in the first half, and they came back and they stunned Toledo late in the game with a late touchdown to win it. It was like 52-48. And I remember just being standing next to the stands and everybody, I was just high-fiving everyone. And it was such a great experience being at the stadium that day for that. That was one of those games I'm going to be like, I will never forget what it is I just saw. And I'm so glad I was here to witness it. Um, so that was another one. Miami, Ohio. I remember we beat the same way with like 30 seconds left on a touchdown pass beautiful pass that was the guy was wide open. I forget who made the play. Might have been Victor Snow, even who just graduated. Um, and I remember that was another one. Just I cannot believe we beat this team, and we were able to do it. So UB has certainly provided a lot of great moments over the years, but those are the top four. So I would say
Yeah.
not too many against Ohio. Thank you very much. That I could say, but UB still has given me some great football memories.
Yeah. So speaking of the MAC, since we're getting into this, who would you consider, being a Buffalo Bulls fan, who would you consider to be like the top rivals in the Mid American Conference?
For me, it's the two. Well, I know they don't do the MAC East and MAC West anymore, um, but to me, I always go back to the two that it seems like UB has a hard time beating, but they always seem to play close games. And number one, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your show, but I consider the Ohio Bobcats right up there, and then also the Miami Redhawks. These are teams that when it was the MAC East, always went toe to toe with to try to get that division. And those were two teams always in their way, stopping them, but they were always just competitive, back and forth. The thing about Toledo and Northern Illinois is that being when they were in the West, we didn't see them as much. And so, since there wasn't like that division competitiveness, I would say the rivalry to me is stronger whenever UB plays whenever they play the Redhawks and whenever they play the Bobcats. I always circle that on my calendar because it's extra special because it's on.
Yeah. Yeah, Buffalo has been one of those teams where you just wait for them to break out, to have a really good season. And it's always like in the back of my mind, it's like, yes, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Toledo. But then it's like, yeah, Buffalo could make a run in any given year. So I'm always looking out for the Buffalo Bulls. So with that, sticking to the MAC, I've been reporting this lately about conference realignment, and this is like a hot topic among college football fans. Um, there have been rumors here and there about certain MAC schools maybe possibly thinking about making the jump to another conference. We've already seen it with Northern Illinois. They switched over to the Mountain West Conference for football only. Um, since I'm not familiar with what's going on with the University of Buffalo, has there been like any sort of like rumor mill kind of talk about maybe Buffalo could be thinking about jump into another conference, or is there just nothing going on there?
I would say no. Nothing real serious gaining traction. There's always been a little bit of, Buffalo's a bigger city. Let's keep pushing. But here's the problem as far as UB moving up. And that is that while they've been a good, respectable team in the MAC for the last half decade or so, maybe a little more than that, they haven't really. I mean, they've won one MAC championship over that entire time. They haven't really won the conference or the division enough to say, hey, look at our resume. We've been dominating this conference year after year. Can we please move up because we're worthy of that? They don't really have the resume to show that. Um, so I think that definitely makes it harder when they think about realigning or potentially trying to move their way up. Now, listen, I'll never say never because it could happen, but right now, nothing serious appears to be in the works as far as UB. I think they're staying put in the MAC. I mean, they're one of the newer MAC teams. I think they joined them in the 90s. So, I see UB staying put here for a little bit, at least for the time being.
Yeah. And I asked that question because, as I said, it's just a hot topic going on right now in college sports. And even last year, my Ohio Bobcats, they were like involved in maybe possibly talking to the Sun Belt Conference about jumping. We don't know yet what's gonna happen there, but it's something that gets talked about ever so often. So Moving on to another topic, where do you see the Mid American Conference going in the future? We've had some talk lately about maybe FCS schools maybe making that jump up to the MAC. Lately, it's been Sacramento State. I don't know how that's going to work, but really, I don't know how that's going to work. But what do you think is going to be? What is the future looking like for the MAC as far as like new schools joining, or just in your opinion?
I'll tell you, if there is going to be new teams joining, one team I would strongly look at is Stony Brook. They've played some good games, and I remember when they played UB, and they pulled off the upset. Um, and I remember the time before that they almost pulled off an upset, and I remember being very impressed with their football team. Like, hey, they gave us a game. You know, we won, but we had to earn that. This to me has the feel of another Ohio or Miami Redhawks type of rivalry if they should come in. So Stony Brook would be a team that I would seriously consider looking at. Stony Brook for sure. Holy Cross, another Massachusetts school. You know, UMass, the way they've kind of come in and out of the conference over the years. I think adding another Massachusetts school would be good. Holy Cross beat UB in one of my down moments that I ever witnessed as a Bulls fan live. They lost on a last second Hail Mary, and I could not believe it. I was obstructed by the one part of the scoreboard from where I was standing, so I couldn't see exactly what happened. Then I saw on replay. But I remember it being thrown, and at the last second, there was a pause and a gasp. But I was thinking, okay, we're still going overtime. And then all of a sudden, I see all the Holy Cross players just shoot out onto the field. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, no way. That did not just happen. And sure enough, it happened. But that would be another team I'd like to see added. The Sacramento State thing, I don't think that's going to work. I mean, flying cross country. I mean, it was the idea of when we've had, as far as like Michigan, that's about as far west as I think we should push the MAC. You know, I think it does not make sense. I'm flattered by Sacramento State's interest, but I don't see how it makes sense when all the other teams are in Ohio or based out of the East Coast. Okay, let's go to all of a sudden play a Tuesday night game out in California. Like that, to me, the logistics of that just do not work. And so I don't see that one happening. I think the MAC is going to stay steady for a little bit. I think, though, if they are going to expand, I would say Stony Brook or Holy Cross are teams to keep an eye on. I think those are much more feasible than Sacramento State is.
Right. And yeah, for me, I would consider if we were doing it, logically, which Sacramento State, not really that logical, but if we were like thinking more logically, I would say, yeah, you could go a little bit more west to the central time zone, but nothing further than that. And for example, Illinois State, that would make sense because they would replace Northern Illinois. But
Right.
something like that, that would be a good idea. But Sacramento State, we'll see. But I'm gonna leave it at that. So
I'm going two thumbs down on that. We say horns up for UB. We're going to go horns down on that suggestion.
yeah, yeah, they have over there in Sacramento. They have like yeah, call stingers up, stingers down, hornets. So it kind of kind of fits, but whatever. Um, so going to another question here. This is like more in general for college football. What are your thoughts, John, on things like the transfer portal and NIL? How do you think has that changed the game?
Well, I think as far as the transfer portal goes, you know, I can't say that I'm the biggest fan of it because UB didn't particularly do too well in this latest round of it. Now, I will say we did get our quarterback last year, Taquan Roberson, we got him out of the transfer portal. So it's not like UB has totally been shut out, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think I get giving players freedom, but I do think it tends to hurt the smaller schools like the MAC, because when you've got the big universities that come calling, you know, they're going to take it because it's a bigger opportunity on a grander stage. I think it's I think it hurts the game a little bit. I think back as another example, Sean Dolak, who was just a monster on our defense a couple of years ago, and really the best defensive player we've had since the days of Khalil Mack. And that his last season in Buffalo almost did not happen because he went in the transfer portal and went to Utah State. But then Maurice Linguist, who was the coach at that time, suddenly resigned and took the job as coordinator in Alabama. And so in comes our new coach, Pete Lembo, who then convinces Dolak to leave and get back in the transfer portal and come back to Buffalo. So Lembo basically helped avert a catastrophe that the transfer portal almost created, and that is we could have had a great defender that season never was if it had stayed where he had went from Buffalo to Utah State. So as far as the transfer portal goes, you're not going to find a big supporter of me in that. As far as the NIL, I think it's good. I think it gives more opportunities. My thing was the previous rules were just so draconian that I didn't like it. I will say that I think they could improve the way it's being rolled out, but I at least think the premise of them, the NIL and the agreements, I think are good. At least it's a step in the right direction. It's not perfect, but at least it's a step in the right direction as far as the game is concerned.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, Transfer portal, that has been like an ever-changing kind of thing. It's something that, you have to, keep track of as a fan. And obviously these schools are trying their best to mix and match which players they want to bring in. And it's now just one transfer portal window for football. So uh, both Buffalo and Ohio and all the MAC schools, they've gotten their players, and hopefully things turn out well for them. So, yeah. So, one more question. You said earlier that you reside in Florida for Full Sail University. Um, are there what plans are there for the Bullseye Nation podcast going forward to this upcoming season, 2026? What are some plans that you may have for that podcast?
Well, we just unveiled a brand new logo that we're
Okay.
very excited about. It's me and my co-host Norm Rodriguez, and we are right now currently working on different show ideas as far as how to bring more guests, how to incorporate more three-way guest segments, because usually I'll do the interviews and then Norm will join me as a co-analyst. I feel a cool idea that we're potentially bringing to the show is the idea of it having more of a roundtable feel to it. I think that that'll get UB fans excited talking about local topics. And I think as far as maybe incorporating more play-by-play highlights and sounds from the UB game that was, I think that that's something else that we're looking into. So a lot of big things happening for Bullseye Nation. Some of the others are still in the underground laboratory, as I like to say, being worked on and in further development. But those are a couple that I would say are big changes coming soon to the Bullseye Nation podcast near you, Stephen.
Yeah. And quick follow-up question to that: could we expect Bullseye Nation content to be like posted on your YouTube channel?
Yes, in fact, the last one that we did was posted on my YouTube channel, and going forward, more episodes will be. I did a guest spot with the Minnesota Golden Gophers College Huddle podcast when they opened the season against Minnesota, and that also was posted on the YouTube. So yes, we are getting the YouTube channel also involved. All about promoting it. Just like you do a great job with your show, and I like how you have the Instagram handle right under your name so people know how to tune in and follow. It's all about promotion. So we're working on we're working on doing that for UB and Bullseye Nation. So keep an eye out for it, guys.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sounds wonderful. And for the record, guys, for those of you watching this right now, I will provide a link to John Carubba's YouTube channel in the description box below, so you guys can check out his content. I highly encourage you guys to do it to check out his content. Anything that you guys need on Buffalo sports, he's your guy. John is your guy for that. I would like to thank you so much, John Carubba, for being my guest here on this episode of Steven Interviews You. This has been episode number 26, and we will be back very soon with more interview related content. Thank you guys so much and have a good day.